Mother's Day had always been a gentle day in our household, soft, sentimental, understated. I never demanded bouquets that cost a fortune or handwritten speeches drenched in forced emotion. All I ever wanted was the quiet certainty that I was loved, the small warmth of being remembered by the son I raised after the world tried its hardest to shake me apart. My son Ethan was 11 when his father passed away. Cancer took the man I thought I would grow old beside, leaving an empty seat at every dinner table, and a child who suddenly looked to me for all the strength he lost in a single hospital room goodbye. Overnight, I became the mother and father, the comfort and discipline, the chef, the coach, the counselor, the tutor, the shoulders to climb on when he needed height, and the arms to collapse into when the world got too tall for his heart. There were nights I cried silently in bathrooms at 2 a.m., only to splash cold water on my face before the sun rose, because grief wasn't a luxury I could afford in daylight. Ethan needed stability, not sorrow. So I taught myself to carry heartbreak like hidden luggage, heavy but invisible from the outside. I worked double shifts to keep us afloat. I missed vacations. I skipped salon appointments. I learned to fix cracked shelves, negotiate bills, and ice my own birthday cakes, all while teaching Ethan kindness, resilience, ambition, humility, or so I thought. A week before this particular Mother's Day, Ethan called me with a voice full of enthusiasm. "Mom, make sure you're dressed nicely. We're doing brunch and gifts together. Family thing." My heart rippled, not because I expected diamonds or cars, but because excitement from a son often signals emotional presence. And Ethan hadn't sounded like that in years. He was adult now, married, busy, architect of his own life. But a mother secretly hopes that one day appreciation circles back like a long-lost season. Brunch was held at a stylish downtown restaurant I'd only walked past before. Ethan, his wife Laura, and Laura's mother Diane were already seated when I arrived. Diane was elegant, composed, always wearing grace like tailored attire. Our relationship was polite but distant, the kind of connection that stays civil and shallow, like greetings exchanged in hallways but not living rooms. Ethan hugged me first. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," he said, cheerful and loud. For a moment, the world shimmered warmly. Then he turned toward Diane, eyes gleaming with theatrical pride. "Diane, are you ready for your surprise?" he asked dramatically. A valet entered, carrying oversized luxury car keys mounted on a presentation board. The restaurant actually leaned in like an audience, sensing a plot twist. Ethan stood beside Diane and announced, "For always supporting us like a second mother, we wanted to honor you. A brand new Lexus, worth $45,000. Gasps, applause, congratulatory whistles. Diane's eyes filled with glorious tears. The shine around her looked real, complete, cinematic, like motherhood had finally found its champion. Then Ethan turned to me. "Oh, right, Mom, your gift." He reached into a humble paper bag and placed something on the table. Bright orange flip-flops with a discount store tag still attached, price $19.99. "Oh, I figured you like comfort," he laughed. "Happy Mother's Day." And that was when the world went strangely quiet, because it wasn't about the flip-flops. It was about the distance between intention and afterthought, the gulf between spectacle and silence, between being honored and being nodded at like a footnote. I didn't ask for a Lexus. I only asked to matter. But that day taught me that appreciation isn't always proportional to sacrifice. Sometimes it's proportional to optics. And sometimes the mothers who build a man aren't the ones who get the spotlight when he learns to shine. I held myself together through the rest of brunch like a woman trained in emotional concealment. Diane was still glowing, eyes misty with triumph, cheeks warmed by admiration she didn't even have to earn through history, just presence. Laura kept glancing between me and her coffee mug like it held safer territory than this conversation. And Ethan? He looked at the flip-flops again, chin slightly tilted, as if evaluating whether I was reacting enough to justify the gift. Here's the strange thing about motherhood. You don't measure love in dollar signs, but you do measure hierarchy in moments. Diane received applause. I received a chuckle. Diane got a ceremony, a story arc, a crowning scene. I got footwear normally bought for poolside convenience. The magnitude wasn't financial, it was symbolic. The difference between a gift and a declaration. And that realization landed sharper than any price tag could dull. When Diane finally acknowledged me directly, she said softly, "Oh, please, gifts aren't a competition. I told him he didn't need to buy anything expensive." Spoken like a true winner who never felt overlooked. She may not have asked for luxury, but she sure wore it naturally now that it was delivered. Gratitude is easier to theorize when it doesn't come wrapped in humiliation. My fork scratched gently against the plate when I set it down. Ethan looked up quickly. "Mom, you okay? Not what you expected?" He half laughed. "No, Ethan," I said calmly. "It's exactly what I expected after the Lexus announcement." The sentence was gentle, yet cold enough to shift the air. Ethan blinked, gears of realization grinding, but not catching yet. Motherhood often gets processed late when sons grow up. I remembered the year Ethan broke his front tooth trying to carry a grocery bag bigger than his arms. Diane remembers the year Ethan once helped her carry a garden pot. I remember the night Ethan threw up on my lap after a bad school lunch. Diane remembers when Ethan paid for her dinner twice. I celebrated his first word, his first medal, his first heartbreak, his first paycheck job. Diane celebrated his 6-month engagement to my daughter-in-law. Not once did I resent Diane before, because comparison didn't exist in my mind. But now, Ethan had scheduled it publicly with stage lighting on her side of the table. I wasn't angry. Anger is loud. I was hurt. Hurt calculates silently. Hurt catalogs. Hurt remembers dates you never wanted saved. After brunch, Ethan took Diane outside for pictures, holding the Lexus keys like they were part of a press conference. He waved at me, saying, "Hold yours up too, Mom." And for a moment, I actually felt like a prop in someone else's commercial. Bright daylight, silver Lexus, orange flip-flops, maternal class difference in 16:9 format without filters. Some people go viral by being loved. Some go viral by being replaced. I walked home, metaphorically and literally, carrying a truth heavier than grief, but easier to hold than confrontation. I raised the man who could give away a Lexus, but he never realized I built the hands capable of handing those keys. That night, I posted nothing online. I've learned social media loves spectacle. It rarely awards silent architects. But this silence, this one was mine to learn from. If you felt this in your heart, you already understand the story. Now let's bring it to the world. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who values real love, and subscribe to my channel so you never miss the next twist. Let me know in the comments, who do you think deserved that Lexus moment? And remember, I told myself to move past it. Mothers are trained to convert disappointment into digestible portions. Swallow, smile, store away. But some moments contain ingredients stronger than quiet forgiveness can neutralize. This one wasn't sadness seasoned lightly. This one was soaked in visibility, comparison, and an emotional press release I never consented to receive. For the next 3 days, I tried the usual remedies: distraction, distance, denial accompanied tea, but social media had turned into a dealership showroom of public admiration. Every notification on Ethan's profile rang like another round of applause. Friends left comments like, "Legendary son, this is the love every mother deserves." And my personal favorite, "Who raised this gentleman king?" The irony burned because the comment didn't end with my name. Diane collected coronation without lifetime contribution. I collected compressed silence without acknowledgement warrants. The Lexus, parked in our driveway during the reveal photo shoot, gleamed like a metallic truth mirror, reflecting everything except me. Ethan had invited a photographer, Diane's bingo winner instincts apparently pre-booked. The moment was staged like a family victory trailer. Bright daylight, silver Lexus, slow camera walks, proud hugs, emotional background music without speakers actually playing it. Diane posed beside that car like she had co-authored Ethan's character, like Motherhood itself was sponsored by brand partnerships. But I stood just off frame, holding footwear, packaged for casual errands, not ceremonial gratitude. Not once did Ethan think the optics of this moment telescoped inequality like emotional IMAX. Later, Laura mentioned a detail she thought harmless while bragging to her cousin. When he handed Diane the keys, he whispered, "Thank you for raising the woman who made my life better." Isn't that poetic? Poetic, yes, for a story unlike mine, because poetry written at someone else's expense is closer to prose theft than beauty. Those words were sweet, stitched perfectly into the marriage bonding narrative Ethan wanted to present, but they also carried barbed wire dipped in sentimental honey. I replayed all the unseen Mother's Days, like deleted scenes I suddenly wished got airtime, the nights I ironed school uniforms while calculating budgets, the mornings I braided anxiety into practicality and still made sure Ethan had emotional vitamins packed into lunchboxes, the teenage years he tested boundaries and I buffered the storms quietly without sending emotional eviction notices. The resume of motherhood long enough to run 8 seasons on Netflix, but never enough to justify a single Lexus-level lighting cue, apparently. The truth is, Ethan didn't give Diane a Lexus just to honor her. He gave her a moment large enough to train validation on Laura by extension. Diane was not just mother-in-law that day. She was relationship infrastructure, decorative centerpiece, bearing witness to Ethan's alignment with Laura's emotional cosmos. And alignment apparently budgets big. I built sacrifice. Diane collected symbolism. But symbolism travels farther. And Ethan wanted far, dramatic, memorable. Because honor today isn't quiet. Honor today has wheels, cameras, public applause, and metallic reverence glare. I realized then that this wasn't a gift. It was a declaration. Some mothers are foundations. Some mothers are public covers. And Ethan had chosen his cover in silver paint and engineered emotional narrative angles. That night, Diane sent me 37 photos. Only one contained me in the background, visibly blurred, and captionless like an emotional B-roll extra. But there was something that was crystal clear. Ethan honored Diane with a Lexus instrument. He honored me with assumptions. And assumptions don't appreciate. They categorize.
I wish I could say the disappointment ended in the driveway, with Diane waving Lexus keys like a trophy and me waving rubber flip-flops like participation credit. I wish pain had an expiration date like gift receipts. But emotional hierarchy isn't a fleeting sting. It keeps unfolding like fine print never thought applied to you, but suddenly you are bound by every clause. The days that followed were a blur of surface calm and internal turbulence. I went back to my routines, watering plants, paying bills, wiping countertops that didn't deserve the resentment I was scrubbing into them. I didn't mention the Lexus. I didn't ask for an apology. I didn't even ask for explanation. Because mothers from my generation don't chase validation. We assume love is self-evident, like gravity, always present, quietly holding everything together. But what Ethan had done that day forced me to question a dangerous belief I had been carrying for years. If you give everything, you will one day receive something that matches the weight of what you gave. Not a car, not shoes, just a moment where appreciation meets sacrifice without turning around and shaking hands with someone else first. Diane had only been in Ethan's adult life for a fraction of mine. Yet she received reverence that could be captured in 37 photos, 3 social media posts, and a professional photographer lens, while my motherhood was archived privately, offline, uncelebrated like a story told to an empty room. I began to examine the psychology of optics. People celebrate what they can see. They venerate what looks dramatic. They reward what photographs well. Foundation work is invisible labor. It's not glamorous, not postable, not monetizable, but it is load-bearing. Without it, Lex's keys would have been handed by hands still trembling from instability. Ethan respected Diane loudly because Laura respected Diane deeply. Ethan assumed I required nothing loud because I had learned to survive without it for so long that he mistook endurance for preference. But endurance is not consent, and silence is not satisfaction. Laura once told me, months ago, my mother is the reason I believe in unconditional love. I had smiled at that then. I didn't know I was smiling at a prologue to my own demotion. Here's what hurt most: the painful algebra of intention. Diane raised a daughter who married Ethan, Lexus-level tribute. I raised Ethan, flip-flops level assumption. I built legacy. Diane inspired optics, and optics won that Mother's Day billboard. I realized then that the wound was never money. It was this: Ethan didn't give Diane a car, he gave her public maternal elevation. He didn't give me flip-flops, he gave me private relegation. The insult was not the soles beneath my feet. It was the assumption beneath my role. If this part shook something inside you, don't let it pass by quietly. Smash that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to my channel so you stay with me for the next emotional twist. Who raised the legend? The one seen or the one unseen? The fourth day came not with clarity, but echoes. Not the dramatic kind that rings loudly in your ears, but the quiet kind that hums insistently in your memory, returning every time you pour coffee or check your phone or catch your reflection in a window. Diane's Lexus reveal was still living rent-free in the spotlight section of Ethan's life, even though the driveway was empty now. The moment, I realized, had been parked deliberately, not merely gifted. Laura and Ethan invited Diane over again that weekend for what Laura called a small appreciation dinner. But small was never Ethan's style when Diane was involved. The dinner table was decorated with flowers that cost more than my entire wardrobe budget last year. Ethan cooked steak, opened a bottle older than his marriage, and kept calling Diane Mom 2.0. It was meant as a joke. It felt like rebranding. I took my seat quietly, already aware that the lighting plan didn't include me. Diane sat opposite, smiling graciously, accepting reverence the way some women accept rain, naturally, without surprise, without apology. I noticed something that night I hadn't clocked before. Diane didn't try hard to earn Ethan's admiration. She didn't earn it at all. Ethan constructed it. Laura once told me, months ago during a car ride, Ethan bonds best when he feels emotionally needed. Diane understood that instinctively. I understood motherhood, not emotional marketing. After dinner, Diane said casually, "Evelyn, you must be thrilled he honored me like that. Ethan is such a giver." I glanced at my orange flip-flops still sitting neatly by the mudroom door. "He's a very selective giver," I replied, before I could gently vet the sentence through mother filter software. Laura choked slightly on her wine. Ethan avoided eye contact with his own mashed potatoes like they carried witness protection. Diane raised an eyebrow, the polite version of "explain yourself." So I did, calmly, without theatrics. "Diane, generosity isn't measured in cars or shoes. It's measured in intention, and I finally understand Ethan intended something visible for you. He intended something comfortable for me. But comfort is not the same as least." Ethan finally looked up. "Mom, you love practical things. We thought you'd appreciate flip-flops more than something flashy." "I do appreciate practical things, Ethan, but I don't appreciate being categorized as the practical limit. Practical shouldn't mean small, and simple shouldn't mean last." That was the moment. The emotional thermostat shifted. Diane reached across, placing a manicured hand gently over mine, her tone softer now, but still slightly instructional.
You need to tell us what makes you feel appreciated. And there it was again, the assumption I have been dodging like emotional toll gates. The unseen mother must request the scene-level moment to qualify for it. I smiled, squeezing her hand back gently, because I wasn't attacking Diane. I was interrogating the structure that made her moment big and mine negotiable. I'm telling you now, I don't need Alexis. I don't need brand partnerships. I don't even need flip-flops. I need an emotional sentence that begins with my mother before the applause line begins with someone else. Ethan swallowed. Laura inhaled. Diane finally exhaled, understanding. The truth had been revealed, but acceptance had not yet arrived. Knowing why Deanne received the Lexus didn't soften the imbalance. It only explained the equation that caused it. And sometimes understanding the formula makes the unfairness feel even sharper. After that dinner conversation, Ethan became unusually attentive, like someone running a software patch update after a system bug crashes the whole interface. He brewed me tea, started texting more, and asked questions Laura never heard him ask me before. How was your day? Do you need anything? Have you eaten? It would have felt nurturing if the shadow of Diane's Lexus tribute hadn't stretched so long behind the sentiment. One afternoon, while wiping dishes, Ethan said, "Mom, I think I messed up. I just wanted to make Laura happy. I never meant to make you feel small." I stopped mid-wipe, dishcloth frozen like emotional subtitles buffering on screen. "Ethan," I said gently, "I don't feel small because Diane got a car. I feel small because she didn't get the car quietly. She got it like the unveiling of a monument." Ethan blinked. "Monument?" "Yes," I said. "A monument is what you build to honor something. You built hers publicly. You built mine privately. And private honor is still invisible." He exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale that tells you realization doesn't always arrive poetically. Sometimes it limps in quietly, wearing uncertainty. That's when I finally asked the question that had been forming in my heart like tectonic pressure, not sadness. If Deanne deserved a Lexus for helping sometimes, what did I deserve for helping always? Ethan didn't answer immediately. The silence between us felt less like guilt and more like math he never studied. I continued before he could speak. "You came into this world through me. Deanne entered your world through Laura. But she didn't build your character. She simply fit a narrative you wanted approval from. Not effort, narrative alignment." Laura later mentioned to me, unaware of her timing fragility, "You and Diane are basically both moms to Ethan now, right?" Two words detonated softly in my head like emotional dynamite dipped in velvet. Both. Basically. Because motherhood isn't basically anything. It's specifically everything. So I replied calmly, the kind of calm that carries decades of emotional lifting without trembling. "No, Laura, I'm not basically mom. I'm the source code. Deanne is the update package. We're not the same category." Laura went quiet, not offended, enlightened. That evening, Ethan sat beside me in the living room. He finally said, "You deserved the Lexus moment too. I just never thought you'd need a moment like that." "There you go," I smiled. "You thought." And that was the real asymmetry, not the car, the assumption. I stood, walked to the window, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one like delayed recognition cues I never asked for but suddenly understood the absence of. Because mothers don't require theatrics, but sons sometimes require contrast to see constancy. If you've ever been the foundation and not the frame, the constant and not the caption, this story is speaking your language. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel because no mother deserves to be a footnote in her own story. A week had passed since Mother's Day brunch, And yet, the weight of the moment hadn't loosened its grip. Some wounds don't bleed, they echo. Every time I looked at Diane driving away in her silver Lexus, it felt like watching an award ceremony for a role I had auditioned for my entire life without realizing there was even a stage. That morning, I decided I needed my own moment of truth. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear enough to be undeniable. I called Ethan and said, "Come over after work. We need to talk. Just you and me." He arrived cautious, the kind of caution you wear when you know you're stepping into emotional territory you once paved over. He sat in the living room, the same couch I once emptied piggy banks under to pay for his school trips. The coffee table between us was bare. I wanted it that way. No distractions, no optics, just gravity. Then I placed 2 items on the table slowly, carefully. A printed photograph of Diane holding the Lexus keys at brunch, and the orange flip-flops Ethan gave me, still bagged, tag dangling, unworn. They sat there like a visual thesis on maternal contrast. Ethan shifted, eyes soft but unsettled. "Mom." "No, Ethan." I raised a hand gently. "Let the evidence speak first." The items were small in size but heavy in meaning. The car symbolized visibility. The flip-flops symbolized assumption. Not humiliation by gift, but hierarchy by staging. "I don't hate the flip-flops," I said steadily. "I hate what made you think they were my ceiling." "My ceiling?" Ethan frowned. "Yes," I nodded. "You thought Diane deserved a spectacle because she helped you sometimes. I helped you always, quietly, constantly, and without leverage. Diane got a tribute. I got your estimation." Ethan swallowed. The sound small but seismic. "So tell me, why did Diane get a moment and I got a product? Why did the applause belong to her and the explanation left for me to request later?" He rubbed his forehead. "Because I never saw you ask for anything big." "That's the point, Ethan," I leaned forward. "Motherhood isn't loud. It's so loud in proof of years that it shouldn't need to speak at all. Diane got a moment because you wanted to prove something to Laura. I didn't get one because you thought I didn't need proof, but love without proof still deserves acknowledgement." He exhaled. "I think I get it now." I smiled gently, the kind of smile that carries forgiveness but not erasure. "Good, because I'm not confronting you for a car. I'm confronting you for clarity. I raised you to be generous, Ethan. I didn't raise you to be unequal." Ethan nodded slowly, eyes glimmering now for a reason not borrowed from optics. "I want to rewrite one thing today." I picked up the flip-flops. "Not your gift budget, your gratitude compass." Ethan stood and hugged me, not loudly, not luxuriously, but sincerely, like emotional alignment done manually for once. And that hug felt like the first unfiltered Mother's Day moment in years. Not televised, not photographed, not monetized. The year rolled around faster than I expected. Time has a strange way of smoothing edges but sharpening lessons. I didn't spend the months dwelling on the Lexus or resenting Diane or rehearsing arguments that never served healing. Instead, I spent those months watching myself more closely. Because before Ethan needed to fix his gratitude compass, I had to examine my own motherhood paradigm. Was I silent because I valued simplicity? Or was I silent because I had been surviving for so long that I forgot I deserved more than survival? I realized something crucial, a truth more transformative than any gift or speech or post could ever carry. You don't teach people how to value you with your words. You teach them with the boundaries you set and the energy you stop shrinking. I had spent years wearing the humble badge like armor, the mother who doesn't expect much, who doesn't want flashy things, who prides herself on being low maintenance. It wasn't pride, it was conditioning. When you raise a child through grief and scarcity, your nervous system learns economy, not celebration. The world had taught me to stretch dollars and silence needs. I, in turn, unintentionally taught Ethan that my endurance meant I needed nothing elevated. But endurance is not insignificance, and low maintenance is not low worth. So this time, I prepared differently. Mother's Day morning arrived, and Ethan texted, "Brunch again today, us three moms, same place?" I didn't reply immediately, not because I was upset, but because for the first time, I understood that timing is narrative control, and paused silence is sometimes louder than emotional monologues. I finally replied, "I'll meet you there, but no reveals, no photographers, just family." The words were simple, but they carried a boundary I hadn't set last year. Ethan didn't argue. Growth makes people respect boundaries faster than guilt does. When I arrived, Diane was already seated, stylish as always, but something felt different. The hush of competition was absent. The spotlight, once manufactured, was now neutral lighting. Ethan stood to greet me first again, but this time the hug lingered longer, a fraction longer. But anyone fluent in maternal emotional micro-expressions knows what even 0.2 seconds more sincerity can translate. We exchanged gifts quietly. Diane opened a small bracelet from Laura and Ethan. I opened a beautifully framed card, not handmade like childhood versions, but handwritten inside. "Mom, thank you for always being my strength, even when you carried storms quietly. I honor your constancy. I love you." No $sign, but gold-level intention. I traced the ink with my thumb, feeling something richer than financial magnitude, the emotional ROI of recognition, not comparison. That afternoon, we sat in Laura's backyard drinking tea. No cameras, no posts, no optics. Diane glanced at me and said softly, "You raised a remarkable man, Evelyn." And for the first time, the sentence didn't feel ironic or hierarchical. It felt accurate. I didn't need the Lexus then. I needed the sentence now. Because the biggest gifts don't roll into driveways. They roll into understanding. If this emotional journey hit your heart, don't let this moment drive away silently. Like this video to honor real motherhood. Share this story to give someone a moment they deserved. Subscribe so you never miss another truth that deserves airtime.